Hi folks, I'm going to do a little series where I'm going to be discussing all these little rookie mistakes that people make. I've made them. I know people that have been playing for as long as I have that also make them. However, I'm going to start with probably the one I see the most often. So I'm going for the greatest hits here. You buy your cabinets, you buy your amp heads, Marshalls, Bugeras, Mesas, doesn't matter which one, and it also doesn't matter if they're valve, tube, or transistor. The same rules apply here. And the thing that I see happening all the time, if I go down and dig amongst the floor here, is people will use their instrument cable to connect your amplifier to your speaker cabinet. And this happens all the time. Like I say, I've seen people that have been playing for 30 years or more still doing this because it works, kind of. But the day it doesn't work is the day you're actually in front of an audience, the day you need it to work. And I'll explain why, and why it's vital that you start using the correct cables. Instrument cables, instruments. Speaker cables, speakers. And it's a rookie mistake, but it's an easy mistake, and it's an understandable thing when people get them wrong. They use the same jack. So, yeah, you're at home, you've got your amp playing, a bit like I have today, not very loud, and you've got it into a nice cabinet. So, I can't find a cable, bung, just go and plug in an instrument cable. It works. But it works because you're running a very, very small current. Really, between the amp and the cabinet at room volume, you will never be pushing even half a watt. However, these are designed for carrying tiny amounts of power, ampage. Electricity. We'll just go with the word electricity. Now, if you have a look at these up close, you've got the positive in the shield and the negative. The positive is almost like a core that's running through here. So you've got your copper and a layer of plastic. It's in a little plastic tube. And then the negative is wrapped all the way around this. Like a braiding, and that is RF shielding. The purpose of that is to stop interference. You've got such a tiny signal going between your guitar and your pedal board, or your guitar and your amp, or between your pedals and your amp, that any interference at all will be picked up, and then you're amplifying it. So these have the negative wound round there as a form of shielding, and that's what it's called. RF is radio frequency. So you don't pick up air traffic control, you don't pick up somebody's CB radios, you don't pick up fluorescent lights, or you pick up less. You don't get that 50 cycle hum which you get in Europe, or 60 cycle hum which you get in USA. I think Ryan Burke's to blame for that. Anyway, speaker cables, different animal. They do not have shielding. They don't need it. But they have much heavier cable. Now, I've just rewired this house, and that's very similar cable weight to what you run in France or in Europe. And 240 volts to your sockets. That would cope with 16 amp load, no problem. Now, this is where things go wrong. Your instrument cable that you've been using at home will work. You're quite happy. And then you go to a gig and you turn it up. And all of a sudden you're not running 1/4 of a watt or 1/2 a watt at most through this. You're running 20 watts, 30 watts, 40 watts. Now you remember, you're going up to the power of the old-fashioned light bulbs. You may not be running an amp full power at 100 watts, but even so, you think of a 50 or 60 watt light bulb, how hot that got. And they get hot because you're running power through a very thin wire. This is a very thin wire, and you're running power through it. It's not light bulb thin, but it is still too thin for that job. And this is the same, you've probably seen old adverts where they're warning you about, leaving things in and thin cables, and they heat up. And this is when these fail. They get hot and the heat just, the center core will melt, or they'll just give up. And then you've got a problem, because you've got a cable that's going to be shorting out, which is when the positive and the negative are touching, if the core melts, or if they actually have an open circuit. Short circuit's when they touch, and open circuit is when one disengages. And then you've got your, especially with the tube amplifier, you've then got one where the impedance is running down and down and down, and it's trying to provide power. And then you blow your transformer, or you blow your fuses. It's a very costly and very nasty mistake. So, speaker cables have just two wires in it, positive and negative, and they're heavy. And that's the purpose. That allows the flow of power to your speakers. Okay, safety aside, okay, there's one thing. You go, well, I don't want to fry my amplifier. I don't want to damage anything, and I want the gig to be successful. Yay! Also then, let's talk about sound quality. The top end of your frequency range, your 3, 4, 5 kilohertz, doesn't use a huge amount of power. Think of a hi-fi speaker. The little tweeters, tiny. And then you've got your big bass drivers. Now, your guitar cabinet has usually 10 or 12 inch speakers. And to generate that, they're not super low frequency, obviously guitar's a mid-range instrument, but you're still generating 100 Hz, 150 Hz, and at volume. So you need power to make that speaker move. If you're using an instrument cable, you are starving your speakers of power. You can turn the amp up and it will get louder, but you are going to be losing a lot of that quality. And the reason is, obviously, if this is getting hot, what's causing this to get hot? It's the power from the amplifier going through here. It's resistance. So if this is getting hot, that means that a lot of the power is not actually reaching your speakers. You're converting that, instead of it being movement in your speakers, you're converting it to heat in your cable. Absolutely useless. You don't need an extra little heater on stage like that. So your large speaker cable is not generating, it's not generating heat, it's not converting that energy from your amp into heat. It's sending everything into the speaker. And this is where I would honestly say you will notice straight away, the moment you get a decent speaker cable and plug it in, you will find you've got full range. Your low ends will be much, much richer. So that's another damn good reason to do it. Okay, and then cost-wise, an instrument cable and a speaker cable, they don't cost any difference. So you really might as well have the right tool for the job. And it's always easy to tell why, what you've got, because if you look at your speaker cable, bring it right in there, it says the word speaker cable. So it's pretty self-explanatory. It's not a lucky dip. The other thing that, and the reason I like this sort of weight of speaker cable, as well as obviously it can carry load, it's also a great thing when you're setting up and packing away. You don't need to be sitting looking for that writing, going, right, what one was that? Was that, which box do I put that in? You don't have that problem. You know straight away that the big thick cable, yay, that's it. That's my speaker cables. So my speaker cables go in one box, my instrument cables go in another box, my PA speakers go in, PA cables go in another box. And this is something that is my little bugbear. in a way. And the whole one thing that would make this video completely defunct is if manufacturers would follow the line of PA speakers and PA amplifiers, where they've all now really moved on to these, the Speak-On cables, Speak-On plugs. Now, you're not getting that, sorry, I'll lift up that, you're not getting that mixed up. You know that's a speaker cable. And this is where I do wish that they would use this. Plug in, locks in, job done. But they don't. And it's possibly because the mindset is, well, if you're stuck you can use an instrument cable. Well, you really can't. And I really wouldn't. But like I say, it's completely, I wouldn't get at anybody who's been doing this for their whole life. Because you think, well, it's worked at home. And it will probably work at home forever. It's not going to cause you any bother. However, get the right thing. Get a speaker cable. These were speaker cables from Thomann, and I think they're, I should check before I make a video, but you know, 10, 12, 13, 14 euros. They're not dear. And also, I sometimes run likes of my Katana floor amp. So I've got a long speaker cable run. And the longer they are, the more important it is to have a very good cable. Because the longer the speaker cable, the more resistance it's going to build up. And that resistance also can affect your amplifier with the amp's impedance. But we're going to be getting into too much detail there for you, for really that's worth bothering about. The simple thing is, if it's connecting to a speaker, get a speaker cable. If it's connecting your guitar to a pedal or a pedal to an amplifier, use an instrument cable. You won't get it wrong one way around. You will go and plug in your speaker cable to your guitar and it'll just be humming and buzzing and picking up the latest Boeing 747 going by. So you know straight away, oh, that's no use. I better find an instrument cable. But there's no reason why you don't go and do it the other way around as well. Get speaker cables. Not dear. I'll put a link in below for you know, this type. I think these are the Snake or something they're called. But I'll put the link in. They're affiliated links, so if you buy that, I'm meant to be getting some sort of thing back. I've no idea how that works. However, hey. So, if these say speaker cable, and they're for speakers, and these say speaker cable, and they're for speakers, and your instrument cable does not say speaker cable, don't use it for speakers. It's as simple as that. Your sound will be better using an instrument cable for the right job and using a speaker cable for the right job. So your low end will be much improved, your tone will be better, your amplifier will be running correctly, and you'll be all happy. And it's one less thing. And again, one less thing. That should be what I should call it. Just one less thing. So, yeah. At home, your instrument cable will probably work for a lifetime. You're at a gig, you increase that power, that's when they fail. So don't get into that habit. Get in the habit of using the correct cable. And if you want, mark it up. We've all got cables covered in every colour of sticky tape going. So have one for power cables. Have their own box, have their own space. And then you'll be absolutely sorted and have a happy and stress-free life as far as speaker cables go. So I hope that's of use. If you have any other little things that you would suggest, it's little rookie mistakes, things you get wrong, let me know, and I'll try and make a little video on it, and hopefully try and keep these a bit shorter. You know, still 15 minutes talking about a damn cable, but hey, it's probably one of the most important 15 minutes talking about cables, and if every amp manufacturer as well talks about cables, please listen. They know their kit. I know from seeing these fail. get the right one. So anyway, thank you very much, and I hope you have a very nice week to come. It's now Sunday evening here, so thank you, and I'll have something again for you very, very soon. Bye bye.